All right, members, I wanted to put together a brief overview of some of the things we went over at last Sunday. So 8 days ago, our members meeting. We went through this PDF, which is really important that all of you have a sense of what's in this document, because I'm hoping this is really the kind of the strategy of the rhythms of what we're looking for over the next year to kind of bind us together. I'm so excited for this. We spent the majority of our time together at our members meeting going through this document and making sure we are really all in sync with each other. And so I want to walk you through it. I hope you take the time to go through it. And I really hope not only that you go through it, but that you own this, that you take some time to pray about it, to really consider this the direction of your church. If you have any questions whatsoever about anything that's in this document, ask me. I'm sending you a PDF copy of it as well. And I'm just going to go through it. I want to make this video not too long. So I'm going to go quickly through it, but go through it on your own as well. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen so that you should be seeing the front page of this document that you have. The front is just a cover. I'm going to go a little briefly through this. So again, hopefully I make good use of time. The goal of this document is to remind us how we go about making disciples. And that's the heartbeat. I want us to be about making disciples. How do we do this well? If you remember our mission statement, our vision is proclaiming the gospel of Jesus Christ to all people till there's no place left. Then there's 4 parts to our mission statement. We make disciples, we equip the saints, we send them out, and we spread far and wide. This document focuses on those first 2. How do we make disciples? What does that mean for us? What are we actually getting after when we say we're making disciples? And then how do we equip the saints? Okay, so this is documentation for that. So let's go through it. First section, making disciples. And I'm not going to read this word for word. You can do that on your own. This is basically just a page that says we need some tools. If we're going to say we're about making disciples, what are the tools that are in our tool belt as a church to actually go about making those disciples? Well, the first one is this acronym BLESS. Now, there is a study that was done a while ago, before I even share this with you. There was a study that was done a while ago of people who went out evangelizing, trying to make disciples, taking someone who's not a believer or a nominal believer at best, and helping them become a true disciple of Jesus. And one group went out evangelizing, kind of like I like to do, cold turkey evangelism, okay, on the streets. And the other group went about blessing people the way I'm going to walk you through this. And they measured, after a season of years, how many disciples each group made, the people who did cold turkey evangelism versus the people who blessed people. And the numbers came in, and it was 100 to 1. 100 times more disciples were made by the group that chose to bless people, like I'm going to show you, versus those who did cold turkey evangelism. Now, we don't throw cold turkey evangelism out. You know, I love cold turkey evangelism. It's important. But we're going to make the main thing the main thing. We're going to learn how to bless people together as a church. We're going to do it very intentionally, okay? So the acronym stands for this, 5 letters in BLESS, B-L-E-S-S. When we bless people, this is how we're going to go about making disciples. These are the 5 things we're going to do. We're going to prioritize them. We're going to drill them into the rhythms of our church. We begin with prayer. So we're going to be praying for people very specifically, and I'll show you how we do that in just a moment. Number 2, we listen to them. We want to be very intentional about hearing people's stories, sitting down with them over a cup of coffee, and not trying to bring in our story and our church and all that kind of stuff. Just literally tell me your story. Who are you? What was your childhood like? Where are you from? What have you overcome in your life? This gets you so far in terms of building friendships and relationships. We need to be slow to speak and quick to listen, okay? Number 3, we eat with people. We share a meal, no agenda, other than just breaking bread with them, building friendship, building community. Number 4, we serve them. We look for ways to just show up in their life and serve them. I shared a story recently of one of our members, Courtney Boyd, who randomly showed up at our house with flowers for my wife. And she had called me beforehand to ask what my wife's favorite treats were. And she brought her my wife's favorite treats. And just showed up and a little note that said, we love you. We're so grateful for you. Now, can I just tell you, she served my family that day. Just a little token, a little gift like that. It spoke so much to my wife. We were riding high for a while there. And there's been many other people in the church who have served our family or served other people. When we serve people, we're intentionally going out of our way to find little ways to bless them in ways that maybe it's some flowers, maybe it's a date night, maybe it's bringing them a meal, maybe it's just writing them a note and leaving it in their mailbox, maybe it's a gift card somewhere. We just serve them. And then finally, when the time is right, when we build this relationship, and when they're asking, we share and we share our story. And remember what your story is. Your story, we've taught you this in our last members meeting. Remember, Alana showed you how to give a 30-second testimony. Your story is Jesus has transformed everything about you. That's your story. That's who you are. So we're going to bless people, and we're going to do it very intentionally and strategically. Now, step one is, this is what we do. How do we make disciples? We bless people, and we're intentional about it. Now, step two, we make a Bless 15 list. Now, this is not to turn people into projects, by no means, but this is to live with an intentionality and to say, who are we intentionally looking to bless? Okay. Who should be on your Bless 15 list? This is the key thing right here. Who should be on your list? Anyone who's not already a follower of Jesus. Okay. Anyone who is not demonstrating any fruit. So that would be someone who's like a nominal Christian. Maybe you have a neighbor who says they're a Christian, but they're not part of a church. You're looking at their life. You're saying, man, I know what a disciple of Jesus is, and I'm just not seeing it in your life. Okay, they can be on your list. And number three, oh, I have an old copy here. Oh, I'm bummed about that. I have an older copy open right now. This third bullet is not what you have. The third bullet says, anyone who you know is not well plugged into our church family. What I mean by that third one is somebody on your list who is who you've seen at church, you've seen them around, but they are not yet really plugged in. Maybe they've been coming once or twice, and you just know, man, if I bless them, they're going to want to be a part of this community. They're going to say, this church loves me. They've listened to me. They've ate with me. They invited me over. So someone that you meet at church who's not well plugged in yet, okay? I apologize that I have a previous version of this open. Hopefully I don't hit any more roadblocks as I go through this. Next, then you make your list. And actually, what I would like every member to do is fill this list out. 15 people. Now, here's the thing. Maybe you don't have 15 people right now. Maybe you only got 6 in your life that you know of. You know what that means? That, first of all, praise God for the 6 that God has you invested in their life. But that means that you've got 9 other people that we believe God's going to have 15 people in your life. And there needs to be intentionality for you to get out of your bubble and meet your neighbors. And do you know your neighbors? 4 doors down this way, 4 doors down that way. And if you live in a high rise, the floor above you, the floor below you, the idea here is that you take ownership of living as a missionary right where you are. That's where God's got you. And you're going to get their names. If you don't know their names, if you don't know the person who lives on the second floor of the house next to you, find them out. And how are you going to find it out? You're going to eat with them. You're going to listen to them. And then what you do is each day, you're going to open this list up and you're going to go through and start checking off. And you have a list. Have I blessed them? Have I shared a meal with them? Have I listened to them? Have I prayed for them today? Okay. This is your list. Now, how do we build accountability around this? Well, within our small groups. We don't want to change the overall structure of our small groups. We love our small groups. And in fact, we're putting more emphasis and energy into them this year than last year. However, 2 big things, or actually, I guess there's 3 here, but 2 are kind of newer. Number 1, each week or as often as possible, there should be accountability within your small group over your Bless 15 list. Literally, the way I would do this in my small group, we have a meal every week together as a small group in our home. This is the conversation. Almost every week, maybe every other week, we'll open it up. Go around the table while you're eating your chili for the evening. Who'd you bless this week? Right? And you're not looking for anything. This is the best part about this. This is not something crazy. This is just stuff every Christian should be doing anyways. You're asking, who are you intentional about being a disciple maker towards? Who'd you eat with? Who'd you listen to their story? Share those stories. The more you as a small group share them, the more you as members own and are excited about this, it's going to spiral out of control. We will not be able to keep up with what God will start doing through this church. When the small group starts growing, because you're listening to people and meeting people, plan to multiply. Do not make multiplication this barrier that's like this thing you hate to even consider. You're not losing friends. You're building the church. So be prepared to grow when people get added to your group. And lastly, this is so fun. Host monthly blessing nights, or every 4, 5, 6 weeks, regular blessing nights. What is this? Every once in a while, don't meet as a regular small group like you normally do. Take a break from your group and rather have a few people from your group host a big party at their house. You're going to host a party, like a Matthew the tax collector party. Remember Matthew, when Jesus saved him, what did he do? He brought all his buddies over who were non-believers. And then they hosted a meal. And now all these non-believers were engaging with Jesus. And what are you going to do at those parties? What are you going to do when you invite your neighbors over? And you say, man, I don't know my upstairs neighbor over here. I'm getting to know I've been praying for these people. You invite them over. What are you going to do? You're going to listen to their story. You're going to eat with them. You're going to serve them. And if the moment comes for you to share, or for someone else, your small group who's there with you, and you get asked intentionally to tell you your story, guess who you are? You are someone who's been changed by Jesus Christ. You see that? All right. So these are really intentional. Don't bypass these monthly blessing nights. These are very important. And then lastly, now what do you do when you're deciding when you're trying to bless these 15 people, and then someone on your list says, I want to follow Jesus. Or they say, I want to come to church with you. Can you help me take first steps? What do? You don't pass them off to me as your pastor, okay? You are the person God's got in their life. So here's the tool I want you to use. There's lots of tools you can use. I've got a bookshelf in my office in the South Loop that are wonderful books you could use. This book by Francis Chan, I have used to walk a number of new believers through the first steps of their faith. It lays a foundation. It's got discussion questions you can ask. It's free in PDF form online. You can buy a physical copy. There's an app on your phone that literally has the book and all the questions built into it. Plan on 6 to 8 weeks, taking somebody out. You're literally going to walk through the book together. It's a no-brainer. You don't have, it's just as easy as that. You go through it and you pray with them and you meet with them and lay that foundation. If you have another book, great, use that book. Here's the point. We want to put tools in our members' hands to be disciple makers, okay? And if we get intentional about living missionally where we are and really seeking to make disciples, I think we won't be able to control the fruit that starts coming through this church. Now, very briefly, let me walk through Equip the Saints. This is important. Now, what do we do? So you make disciples, but what about those who are already disciples? How are we equipping them to be growing into maturity? So when I think of equipping the saints, I think about discipleship towards maturity. Okay, let's walk through some of the simple things we have. Number one, that's what the academy is for. The academy has been built to help you take very intentional, real steps in your faith, growing in your love of the word, your conviction about your beliefs, and your knowledge of how to live a worshipful life, an obedient and joy-filled life in Christ. So the academy, we're putting all the tools in your hands this year. Now, there's 3 ways to do the academy this year. And actually, if you go, let me see if I can pull this up real quick. If you go to the website, pull this up over here, you go to the website, go to ministries, then click on the academy. You will see all the information for the academy is up here right now. The schedule of classes are right here. Then you have the 2 different ways to take classes, which I'll walk through in a second. If you click on in-person classes, from right here, this is the class I'm teaching, Worldview and Apologetics in the fall. You can register for it right here, okay? Here's the registration. You can sign up for it just like that. If you go back, all the virtual studies, which I'll walk through in just a moment, you can register for them right here. All the links are up right now, okay? So all of that's available to you. Now, 3 ways to do it. In-person classes, Wednesday nights at Near North, there's childcare provided. Classes are $35 for registration. Textbooks you got to buy on your own, okay? If you use the childcare, it's a little bit more. These are amazing. Be a part of this. This is not required. It's not a replacement for small group. This is if you need something more in your life to take that next step and really grow in your faith. Number 2, a whole small group can do this together. All the classes are 10 weeks long. You can sign up online. Let me take a sip of water here, or coffee, I suppose. You can take classes online. We're using the Google Classroom platform, which is a lot like Blackboard if you've ever taken like an online class. All the materials in there, your weekly readings, an optional quiz to see if you've got the main points, a lecture, and discussion questions. We don't want you doing this on your own. Do this with at least one other person, okay? So for example, this is the 3rd option. Maybe this is how you disciple people. Maybe 2 people, 2 guys get together, 2 women get together, say, man, let's grow together. Or a more mature believer comes with a less mature believer. And you're like, what are we going to go through together? Use these materials to be able to do them on your own pace at your own time. My prayer with the academy is that we would grow 300% over last year because of all the online usage. People are signing up to do the classes in their small groups and at home on their own time in discipleship. I think we've actually created entire new pathways for discipleship within the church, where more mature believers or less mature believers or just peers same kind of level of maturity are saying, I want to grow. Let's go through this material together. And there's we've literally created like a whole school. Okay. And we're creating more classes all the time. Very excited for it. Here's the class offering. In the fall, systematic theology is being offered. If you haven't taken that, prioritize that class. For many of you who have already taken that, I'll be teaching worldview and apologetics. In the winter, the live classes will be systematic theology 2, and perhaps possibly a financial class. And then in the spring, our live classes will be Intro to Urban Ministry and Biblical Care and Counseling. Very excited for all these classes, okay? And then small groups, obviously we're not changing small groups. And this document doesn't have the third strategy for equipping the saints. But what I've already mentioned before is our worship nights. And I want to do those regularly, having a chance to just sit at the feet of Jesus and really pray over and just pray together as a church. I want those regular. I want that built into our schedule. We know we need that space to linger with Jesus. Okay. Now, you have the document. Here's my prayer. Let me just close with this. I did that quickly. I spent much more time in the actual members meeting. Go through that document. And if you have any questions, ask me. And more than just ask questions, get excited about it. And let's build this into the fabric of our church. Let's be about this. This is our strategy. So if you're ever talking to somebody outside of your church and they say, how does your church make disciples? You know, you've got a strategy. We're about this. And this is not to limit you. Some of you are incredible disciple makers. Get creative with it, okay? This is to put tools in the whole church's hand to say, this is how we do this. And let's see what God does. Let's pray for a wonderful, wonderful harvest. I believe this is going to be a pretty powerful year for this church. I'm seeing God do some things that are pretty special. And so I hope you get on board. I hope you pray over this, ask away. And thank you for watching this. And let's get after it.